Right, so we're going to be making some little ceramic charms, and I'm just looking at this sample, and I think we're going to start out with what are called pinch charms, which are these, and then later we'll do slab charms, which are these. But we're going to start out with the pinch charms. So you can make anything you want. I'm going to make a little animal. So the first thing is this clay is a little sticky, so if you just kind of roll it between your hands, it will lose some of its stickiness. We don't want it to be too dry. So this is actually pretty good. So the idea is that you're making a very small charm and you're making it out of one piece of clay, okay? Because it's one piece of clay, it does not have to be hollow. It can be a solid piece. So I am pinching, that's why it's called a pinch charm, and I'm gonna get my hands wet with a little bit of this slip. I'm gonna make a little elephant. So make his trunk go up, and then I'm gonna just sort of pinch to make his ears. Okay, so it's called a pinch charm because nothing is added and nothing is taken away. It's just all pinched. So you can make any type of animal, but I'm going to make an elephant. He doesn't have to stand because he's going to be a necklace, but you see how I'm making his legs. So I'm going to just play around with him for a few minutes. And when you're making any sort of sculpture, one of the important things to do is to make sure that it looks like what you're trying to achieve from all angles. So it might look like an elephant from one side and it just looks like merely a blob from the other side. So this looks kind of elephanty, and let's see from this side, not so much. So I've got to kind of pinch this side without messing up that side. So it's just basically be using my fingers and you know, making him the way I want. Nothing gets added and nothing gets subtracted. Everything gets kind of pinched out, and maybe he'll look good and maybe he won't, but it's such a tiny piece of clay that it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna just kind of mush it up, and then I'm going to make a little mushroom instead. So for the mushroom, I'm gonna actually roll out a piece of like round clay, okay? And then I'm going to use my thumb and I'm gonna make a tiny little pinch pot, a little round pinch pot for the cap of the mushroom. If the clay starts to crack, you can dip it in a little slip. So that's the cap of the mushroom, and that looks fine. And now for the stem. So for the stem, I'm just gonna make a little fat little piece here. Don't make it too skinny. You make a little fat little piece here. And I'm gonna just flatten down the end here. And now I have to attach these two pieces. Now it's very tempting to just mush them together, but if you do that, it will fall apart as soon as it dries because the only thing holding it together is the water inside the clay. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna get a little bit of slip, which is clay plus water. I'm gonna put it on the end of my pin tool or potter's needle. I'm gonna scratch in two different directions here, and I also have to scratch here. You always have to scratch both sides because it's like Velcro. They have to lock into each other, kind of like puzzle pieces or pieces of Velcro. Velcro has hooks on one side and it has fuzzy side, and the hooks won't attach to just anything. They'll only attach to the fuzzy side. So you need to have both sides scratched in order for the two pieces to lock into each other. So without that, your little toadstool will just fall apart as soon as the clay dries, and that would be kind of sad, especially if you worked hard on it. So now I'm gonna go underneath and make these little lines. Maybe I'll go on top and I'll make the little circles. And now the next step is, when I'm done, make sure it looks like a toadstool all around. Make sure it's it shouldn't have a front and a back. It should look like a toadstool from all angles. And then all you have to do is stick the jump ring into it. And it will dry that way. And we're going to use a bead rack to hold it up so we can glaze it. And that's how you make a little mushroom charm. Okay, so now I'm going to try and make a little bear's face. Okay, so first I'm going to make a little round piece of clay, and I'm going to just flatten it as a little flat disc, and I'm going to smooth the edges. Okay, and I'm going to, instead of pinching out the ears, I'm going to attach them. So I need to attach little round ears. And again, something even this tiny, you have to scratch and slip. If you don't slip and score, it will fall apart. It is actually no shot at survival. So I'm going to just scratch here, scratch here, scratch here. And I'm going to take this scratched part and meet it with that scratched part and blend it. And then this one. And then there, blend it. Okay, so there's my little bear, but now he needs a face. So let me give him a little nose. A little triangle. So the pointy part goes down. It looks like a little upside down triangle. Scratch here. You must scratch both sides, not just one, and I don't care how tiny it is. Okay, there's our little nose. And then we're gonna go down here and make the mouth. And you can either draw the eyes on, or you can scratch and slip them on. I'm gonna just make the inside part of his ear. And I'm gonna use this end of the potter's needle. 1, 2. Okay, and then I think I'm going to draw a smaller circle inside here, smaller circle inside here. Okay, and then there's my little bear. Very cute. And then I'm going to just take this and I'm going to stick it in here. There we go, and it'll dry like that, and it should be fine, good to go into the kiln, and we'll use a bead rack to fire it. Okay, so I have a little bit of clay left. Let me show you how you might make this little bird, okay? Now remember, you can make any type of animal. It doesn't have to be a bear. You could make a cat and just make it have triangle ears. It doesn't have to be an elephant. It could be a dog. But you've got to decide what parts you want pinched and what parts you want scratched and slipped on. Okay, so let's worry about the bird now, okay? Because it's such a tiny little bird, it doesn't need to be hollow. I'm going to get it wet, and I'm going to get my fingers wet. And I'm going to just kind of go like that to make the tail. And let me go like that to make the head. And you're just kind of pinching the different parts to get it the way you want. until it starts to look like a bird. And you can see these things are very, very tiny. And it might look like a bird from this side, but does it also look like a bird from this side? And what do you need to do to fix it? So when it looks kind of like a bird and you're happy with it, you can stick the jump ring in. But you also probably want to make sure that you draw some detail on it, some texture. So let me just get the extra clay off the jump ring. I don't want the jump ring to be a mess. Okay, so let me draw the wing. Let me draw his eye. Let me draw his beak. Whatever you draw on one side, you got to draw on the other side. I could draw some feathers. You know, but these are very tiny little charms, okay? So what you're gonna do is, because the charms are so little, you're not gonna have your name on them. So what we're gonna do in order to make sure that everybody's charms get back to them, and you know, in order for them to glaze them, is we're going to have a little paper bowl, and we're gonna write our name on the paper bowl, and then you can put your little charms in the bowl, leave them to dry. Mrs. Wintenberg will fire them for you, and then when they are bisque fired, you can have them back and you can glaze them. And you can glaze them on the front, the back, the top, the bottom, doesn't matter, because we're gonna use a bead rack where you have two posts and you have these wires or rods in between, and you have them hanging from them, and you can fire them that way. All right, and that's how you make some little pinch charms. The flat slab charms are pretty self-explanatory because we've been doing so much slab work. You just roll out flat pieces of clay, you cut out the shapes, you put the jump rings in, and then if you have any additional shapes that you apply on, you have to make sure to scratch and slip them. And that's a project that we're going to do this week only for early finishers. If you're still working on your ceramic house, you're going to finish that instead.